like, don't get me wrong, I know no one's but like gonna join it because like of the time. But YouTube doesn't even know that I'm active at the moment because I haven't posted like I was supposed to post yesterday, but I just haven't had the time to record. If you can't tell already, this is my first live, and I do like SpongeBob. In fact, it was actually one of my favourite shows growing up, but I got really, really sad when they stopped making new ones. I actually found that out on my first day of cadets as a kid. That made me really sad. So if you're watching and you don't actually know what my channel is about, My channel's all about sobriety and recovery and healing. And yes, they are making a movie about SpongeBob, and I am so gassed because it's about time. It is about time. But yeah, my channel is all about sobriety and recovery and healing because there's just not enough of it in our world. But today I am live because I'm going away and I actually haven't posted a YouTube video in like a week. So I thought I'd like show my face and just kind of speak about how, sobriety and going away are two things that kind of don't sound like they go together. But I'm going to prove this week that they can. I personally don't drink anymore because it just caused me way too many problems than it was worth. So I've been sober for nearly 5 months now. It's not my first attempt at going sober because it is not a straight road. There are so many times in sobriety that you just kind of want to go back to it, but at the same time there's like this feeling in your gut that just makes you go no. And yeah, it is hard knowing that you just can't have one drink. I mean, I sit there and I see all of these people that are just able just to sit there and have one drink, but it's just never been that simple for me. And it took me so long to come to terms with that was just the way I was, and that it's okay to not just have one drink, and it is okay just to be sober. And it just genuinely makes life so much bigger and so much better and so much brighter. So it's not something I intend on ever giving up, you know? So I guess even though it's hard, it is so good when you kind of understand the benefits of it all. I think my favourite thing after, deciding to go sober was all of the different like drink combinations you start trying. So I was a massive, massive fan of cocktails, so I started making my own mocktails, trying to kind of mimic the taste of the ones I used to drink. And it's not as easy. It is not. And yeah, life is just so much better. And you have money to do things and go out, and you don't sit there and wonder, oh, can I go out and do this? Because if I can't, can I drink? Like kind of just opens up so many more options in life because you stop having to wonder if it's a situation that you're going to be able to drink. And I think that was something that was so big for me because I used to sit there and just postpone doing things or just not do things purely on the basis that I wasn't going to be able to drink. So, life does change and it can get so much better without alcohol. And this is my first holiday as an adult. So I never actually got to go on holiday drinking, and I think that's probably going to make things so much better because I don't have that memory of going out drinking on holiday. In fact, my first ever holiday will be a sober one. So I'm quite excited for that. Yeah, that is so true. Alcohol nowadays is so much more dangerous to consume than what it used to be. I mean, it's never been something that's good for your body, and I think that's widely known. But especially now, the brewing process is not exactly the best, especially with companies brewing non-alcoholic drinks as well. They've had to completely manipulate their entire brewing process and sometimes stop the brewing early, which can cause so many other problems. And not to mention, they make alcohol so much more applicable for a younger audience. So they get you hooked on it way before. Thank you. They get it way before they get hooked onto the alcohol at such a young age. Before they even know it, it's a situation that they can't even control. And I just think the world is probably better if we stuck with prohibition. But everyone has their opinions. Um, I personally just think ever since I decided to stop drinking, life itself just became a happier place. And I sit and I see people go, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm going to go home and have a glass of wine. And I'm just a bit like, well, actually, did you know what you're doing increases those stress hormones? In fact, it's probably the one thing that's making your stress hormones go crazy. Drinking alcohol literally releases cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So people use it as a de-stressor, when actually all they're doing is stressing themselves and putting themselves in a vicious cycle. I think another big thing that people miss when they're not sober is just how much energy and motivation you can have to get up and do things. I used to spend my mornings pretty lazily and do nothing. And nowadays I'm up at around half 4, half 5, and I get up and I just have immense amount of energy. And you can just start enjoying things, you don't feel so tired all the time. And anxiety, it's almost non-existent. Of course, you still have normal human anxiety, who doesn't? But instead of constantly wondering, have I done something wrong? Is something gonna happen? If I drunk too much, it doesn't come anymore because you haven't drunk. I mean, I've had a few times where I've woken up in the morning and had to kind of reassure myself that I haven't been drinking, because your body's just so used to waking up and being like, oh no, what have I done? And that goes, and it takes a while for that to go, to be fair. Like, you kind of expect it to be a straight and easy thing, but it's not. It takes absolutely ages, and it took about 2 months for me to be able to sit there and not freak out every morning. And, you know, it's good though. It is nice. That's another thing I really don't miss about being addicted to alcohol. I can now do my eyeliner because my hands don't shake. And I mean, before I would sit there and have to redo this multiple times because I would shake and I would leave just like really like not good, not good, not good. But now I can actually sit there and do my makeup confidently without my hands shaking. And that's just so nice. Although I have just put that eyeliner straight in my eye and now my eye's watering, so it's probably just going to screw that completely up. So that's just great. But I think really my aim out of like me starting my YouTube channel and things was to really kind of just show that you can be young and still choose not to drink and not to partake and still be a happy person, and that there is so much joy that can come from not, partaking in that. I mean, sober curiosity has become something that's so big in the community now. It's amazing. But obviously, we're never going to be, quite frankly, in a world where there's no alcohol. I mean, consumerism, it's never going to let that happen. But a world where most partake in not drinking could be such a happier place without so much animosity, so many problems, so many fights, and I mean, I couldn't imagine how many crimes actually are only ever committed purely on the basis that people have been drinking. I think the world could be a proper lovely place. But, but I do think the world is a lot brighter when you're not seeing it through rosé tinted glasses. And I must admit, I have tried my fair few of non-alcoholic drinks, and a lot of them are disgusting. And I will be real. They are trying to make these like non-alcoholic beers and stuff taste like actual alcohol. They really don't. If anything, they taste worse. I've only found a few that are actually of any decency. So like the Kopparberg ciders still taste pretty similar to the actual Kopparbergs, and the Peroni non-alcoholic beers, they taste very, very similar, if not better, to actual beer. So, but even then, the problem with going sober and relying on non-alcoholic beer is you're still allowing your brain to go into habits from when you were drinking, which is in fact why, more often than not, like, you wake up and wonder if you've done something wrong or if you've been drinking, because when you open that non-alcoholic beer or non-alcoholic cider or wine or whatever, your brain actually starts that routine, its general chemical routine of thinking you're actually drinking. It's quite a snazzy version of the placebo effect. And that was something I wasn't prepared for in sobriety at all. I figured, well, that's cool, I'll go sober, just drink non-alcoholic. Right, it's not just as simple as just drinking non-alcoholic. You've got to really kind of get to a point in your sobriety to kind of either decide that you're gonna drink non-alcoholic and risk potentially just replacing that addiction with something that's less harmful, or if you're only ever going to drink non-alcoholic because you're just out with friends and you want to feel like you want to partake in something. Because more often than not, most people actually only start drinking so much, or drinking in the first place, peer pressure. Because you go out with your friends at a young age and you're like, well, everyone else is drinking, so should I. And just like that, you've had your first drink, and more often than not, somewhere down the line, you'll be drinking a lot more than what you ever thought you would. Because, quite frankly, alcohol is naturally an addictive substance. What it does is it sits there and it raises your dopamine levels beyond what your brain can possibly comprehend. So, like, your natural dopamine levels sit like here, and then you drink alcohol and it makes it go whoof up here, and your brain cannot produce this. It just can't, right? And that right there is where the addiction comes from. It's purely because you're intaking alcohol causes your brain to produce more dopamine, then what it can like the alcohol releases dopamine in your brain, but your brain, when you're not drinking, can't produce that amount of dopamine. So your brain then looks for, right, well, I need that sort of dopamine because now I can't feel happy. So then you start drinking more. And that's literally how addiction happens. It's just as simple as the fact that there's a chemical mishap in the brain that your brain's constantly trying to fix. And it's the same for majority of addictions. They all cause a chemical issue, a chemical imbalance in the brain. So an addiction starts purely because your brain's trying to get up here and it can't, but you're intaking a substance that puts your brain up here. So your brain's constantly like, right, well, I need to find out what's putting me here so I can feel like this again. And that's all addiction is. Purely a chemical imbalance in your brain trying to fix it. Which isn't always something that's helpful. Because quite frankly, you can't fix an addiction by feeding the addiction.